You that the views expressed in today's show do not reflect the views of KZLX, KNWT, or Northwest Missouri State University. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Today, and welcome to the Weekend Sports Kickoff on KNWT Channel 8 and X106. Trevor Mader, Ryan Elliott, Jacob Blair, and we're also joined right now by the sports editor for the Northwest Missourian, one Justin Quick. How's everybody doing today? It's Friday.
What a beautiful Friday it is. It's 2 o'clock. It's Friday.
Football
We know what time
on the
it is.
horizon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys have heard. There's a pretty big football game in Maryville tomorrow.
Where?
Just across campus, Bearcat Stadium. You gonna be there?
I might think about it.
Might you think about it? Yeah. Big matchup tomorrow. You guys are gonna be there, right?
I would hope so.
I know you guys better be there. Big matchup tomorrow is Fort Hays State is in town to take on the Bearcats, and this is essentially it's almost like an MIAA championship game. Not necessarily if you're Fort Hays State. There'll still be some scenarios where they wouldn't win the MIAA title, but if you're the Bearcats, what more motivation do you need than a conference championship on the line tomorrow?
I don't think you need any more motivation other than that. I know Coach Wright talked about they're going to play the underdog role Tuesday at the press conference, and what kind of surprised me saying that you look at the game, they're probably the favorites coming in, but he said they're going to embrace an underdog role of Fort Hays as the defending MIAA champion, and they're going to go in there and, as he put it, a direct quote here, be the little engine that could and just try really hard.
Well, in the last time they played the underdog role, and it's weird hearing Northwest being in the underdog role, was against Pitt State a couple weeks ago, and you were there for that one. That one turned out all right. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting tomorrow. Like I said, Fort Hays in town. They're 7-2 on the year. Northwest 8-1. Pitt State is also 7-2. And if Northwest wins, they clinch at least a share of the MIAA title. And if Fort Hays wins, then it creates a scenario most likely that there's a three-way tie going into the final week of the season. And a lot on the line tomorrow for Coach Wright's squad.
It really is a lot on the line. I think you look at this Fort Hays State team that Northwest is up against this week, and this is a team that's been real up and down all year. They've had some really impressive performances. You talk about them putting up 50 against Pitt State, but they've also had some pretty rough performances. Those two losses weren't good losses. One to Missouri Western, and it just hasn't been exactly, I think, the year that Hayes was looking for. They were looking to be the number 2 in this conference, the clear number 2 going into the season, and they were looking to jump themselves up to number 1 at some point. But now they're starting to fall back behind once again. They thought maybe they could be the favorites coming in, but again, we talk about Northwest playing the underdog. I don't really think there's much of an underdog concept at all here for Northwest.
No.
They're the clear favorites in this game, and I don't, I think that's justified.
Yeah, like I said, Fort Hays 7-2 on the year. They are led by quarterback Jacob Mazzaro. We remember him from last year when they picked up the win. Also, Charles Tigner has been very well for them in the backfield, 632 yards, 4 scores. DJ Hickman has also found the end zone 3 times. So a pretty balanced Fort Hays offense, but it has been pretty up and down so far this year, and I look for Northwest to hopefully kind of take advantage of that tomorrow.
And with it being at Bearcat Stadium, that gives them a huge advantage with the way that the Tigers have played on the road this season. Those 2 losses have come on the road, the loss to Western and Emporia that you mentioned, Ryan. And the other 2 games that they played on the road, one was with Missouri Southern, which was a win, which is an easy win, with Southern being, the way they are. And then the other one was with Nebraska Cardi, a double overtime victory. So that was a really close game to a team that Northwest kind of controlled and handled by about 13 or 14 points during homecoming. So I think if you're looking at where the game is played, I think it's a huge advantage for the Bearcats to be playing at home this weekend. You've got Senior Day, you've got Ag Day, you got a lot of stuff going on that weekend, and I think it's just going to be a great atmosphere for the game.
And to hit on both of these guys' points is the Fort Hays State team, they come in and at home. They're a different team than they are away. And for Fort Hays, they're going to have to figure out how to bring that team we've seen that kind of dismantled Pitt State. If they can bring that team, show up with that team, then Northwest is going to have a ball game on their hands. If they come with the team we've seen on the road several times this season, it could be over quickly. For Fort Hays State, it's a big game, and maybe that'll get them fired up a little bit, but it's really tough to almost scheme for a team that you don't know really which version of that team's going to show up tomorrow.
Let's look back to last year's matchup a little bit. Obviously, it's a completely different Northwest team, a different quarterback, a lot of different personnel. But that still doesn't take away the fact that Fort Hays came into Maryville and they beat Maryville, or beat Northwest in Maryville, and ended up taking the MIAA championship in the process. Is that something that maybe makes this team a little bit hungrier, knowing there are some guys on that defense, such as Austin Eskew, such as Nick Hess, such as Ben Altoff and Anthony Lane, that remember last year's game and maybe have a pretty sour taste in their mouth from last year that maybe want to bring it to 4 days tomorrow?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of players on this roster that have that sour taste. You know, you talk about Eskew, you talk about a lot of the members of that defensive squad. You look at the other side, you know, Sean Bain Jr. standing on that offense, a guy that was all in last year during the last year when Fort Hays beat the Bearcats. There's a lot of players on this team that have that bad taste in their mouth that really want to get it done this week and get the revenge on Hays.
It doesn't stop with just the seniors of the guys who played last year either. Braden Wright was there with Coach Wright at the press conference, and he talked about how even though he didn't play last year, it didn't really sink in until that game was over what it meant, what he saw, you know, those guys who were on the field and how heartbreaking it was for them. And he talked about just the young guys really rallying around that and wanting to get them back that conference title this year, wanting to get those seniors one last conference title to, you know, send them out on that kind of a note. So it's not only the senior leaders, those kind of guys, it's also the young group that is taking this to whole and really getting that conference title back in Maryville.
You can hear tomorrow's broadcast, a 1:30 kickoff. You can hear that on X106. Myself, Ryan Elliott, and Kramer Sansone are on the call. Also, you can tune in to the Tailgate Show beginning at noon on KNWT Facebook Live, as well as on X106 with Jacob, Kramer, and Nolan Brooks. That'll be beginning at noon. Looking at this matchup, there is a chance of showers throughout the day tomorrow here in Maryville, and I think maybe even later tonight. It looks like everything I've read right now, game time, it looks like that's going to be kind of in the window where it's not going to rain, but still, who knows? With falls in Missouri, you never can tell. Is that something that is going to impact the game tomorrow? And if so, which team do you think that benefits?
I don't know that it's going to impact the game too much tomorrow. I think it will a little bit, but if it does, I think it benefits Northwest.
I think so too.
Because Fort Hays is a team that likes to throw the football. Northwest, a very strong rushing offense, and I think, you know, this is something that could be debated, I suppose, in terms of whether or not Northwest rushing offense really is that strong, but they've looked strong the last few games. They've had some really good performances over the last few games, and so I think that continues. And so, yeah, I just think Northwest, as strong as they are running, and as much as Fort Hays likes to throw the football, if it does affect the game, I think it affects Fort Hays the most and gives Northwest the advantage.
I agree with the running aspect of it being an advantage for Northwest. One thing I will say that might be an advantage for Fort Hays if it is kind of a rainy condition is the ball control for Northwest. They've put quite a bit of, you know, fumbles on the ground, and they've been able to get most of them back. They don't have very many lost fumbles this year, but I think if it is a little bit rainy, Braden may have a tendency to let the ball loose a little bit. So it could be something to watch if the weather does change in that direction.
Yeah, I think Northwest this year has put the ball on the ground. I want to say it was 20 times is what I read in doing my research. They've only lost 7 of them, so they've been fortunate in that department. I think tomorrow we're going to see a heavy dose of Josh Caldwell. I think this is a game that you're going to want to see him step up. It might be his type of game where it's a ground and pound game. Now, Isaiah Strayhorn's been really consistent in that category as well. But I think this is maybe the game where we see why Josh Caldwell ended up at Northwest.
I think the benefit for Northwest comes in the form of the Fort Hays defense. They give up 160 rushing yards per game. They've struggled to defend the run. They've defended the pass really well, but they've struggled to defend the run a little bit against some of the weaker opponents even in the MIAA. So I think that's going to provide an advantage for Northwest to where, again, you talked about Josh Caldwell, just feed Caldwell and Strayhorn the football and let them do their thing. You don't have to worry as much about the passing game, and then all of a sudden later in the game, if necessary, and even into the second quarter or so, that starts to open up the long passes.
And you look at the offenses for both teams. Northwest comes in with one of the better rushing attacks. The MIAA ranked 4th. Fort Hays State, not necessarily in that same category. They're ranked 11th. So if it turns into a ground and pound game where the passing game is affected, and again, we don't know that it will. We can't predict Mother Nature. But in that scenario, I would say that definitely benefits Northwest, doesn't it?
It definitely does. If it turns into a ground and pound game where you're trying to control the clock, control the ball, I think it definitely benefits Northwest with not only Strayhorn and Caldwell, but Braden as well, being able to use his feet and being able to implement that quarterback run game as to kind of give an impact on the Fort Hays defense that they obviously see a little bit in the MIAA with the amount of running quarterbacks that are in the conference, but it's kind of a different feel with Braden at sometimes.
And this game not only does have MIAA implications, but maybe a little bit bigger picture as well when you look at the Super Region rankings that have gone out. And I know Jacob and Kramer and Nolan will get more in depth on it tomorrow with the more time they'll have than we have here. But Super Region 3 is a region that Northwest and Fort Hays are both in. Right now, Northwest is currently slated as the 4th-ranked team in that region. Fort Hays State, they're 7th, so they're the last team in right now. A win would put them pretty comfortably in as long as they take care of business next week. Northwest, it's tough to speculate how far they could potentially slide down there. You wouldn't think they would get knocked out, but you think maybe 5, 6. I guess would just kind of depend on how things go. But there's a lot on the line this weekend.
There really is. I think, obviously a home playoff game is one of the things that
Yes.
that is on the line in terms of right now being the 4 seed. You win, and if you win out,
You're home. You get a home playoff game.
You're home for at least one, depending on what everybody else does. But again, the other thing that's at stake here is you lost your streak of MIAA titles last year. A win will again guarantee you at least a share. A win here means you're right back where you wanted to be.
Yes.
You're back to where Northwest is supposed to be, which is on top of the MIAA.
And talking about the Super Region and all those rankings, again, like you said, Trevor, we will get into this a lot more tomorrow before the game, but there's a lot of big games outside of the MIAA as well where Ouachita Baptist, they're going to play Southern Arkansas, the 2 and 6 in this region, and that has big implications with what happens with the Northwest Fort Hays game, because either way, Northwest might have an opportunity to move up, or Fort Hays has an opportunity to move up, take advantage of whatever happens in that game. It's these last 2 weeks is when you look at the region as a whole is where it's at now, other than maybe Ferris State at the top right now, the whole rest of the region has an opportunity to move and shift around a whole bunch.
Yeah, quick look at those Super Region 3 standings. Ferris State right now, they're at top at 8-0. Ouachita Baptist second at 9-0. Grand Valley State third. Northwest currently ranked 4th. University of Indianapolis is 5th. Southern Arkansas 6th. As Jacob alluded to, they will take on the 2 seed right now of Ouachita Baptist. And Fort Hays State, the last team in. Pitt State, the first team out. Harding and Missouri S&T round out the top 10. So Pittsburgh State, even though that they've looked pretty silly against Fort Hays State, they're still not sitting in a bad position either if maybe Fort Hays takes a bump tomorrow.
Yeah, I think they're in a place that right now you said they're at the 8, right?
Yes.
So they're in, and so
the top 7. It's top 7, I think, is.
Yeah,
it's top
it's
7.
7.
Top
top
7
7.
gets by.
No. Okay.
Yeah, but they're one out, and the team that is right in front of them has a chance to lose tomorrow. I mean, so 2 of these top 7 teams between Ouachita, Southern Arkansas, Northwest, and Fort Hays are going to lose tomorrow, and that'll shake things up. The updated rankings of those will come out again later next week, and we'll get more into that as we get closer to the postseason, as they'll wrap up the regular season next week in Central Missouri. Ryan, look at something you want to add.
And the other thing you have to look at is the 3rd seed Grand Valley at home against Ashland this week.
Not necessarily.
It's certainly not a pushover. An Ashland team that opened the season 0-2 with losses to IUP and Ohio Dominican, but have really started to find their stride. They've won 3 in a row. A close loss to Ferris State a few weeks ago. So this is an Ashland team the team that knocked Northwest out last year, and so they get Grand Valley this week. It is at Grand Valley, but going to be a tough matchup for Grand Valley as well. So some real shakeups could happen here late in the season here, especially in the GLIAC.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. Just kind of looking back to tomorrow's matchup again, you can hear that game on X106 with myself, Ryan, and Kramer Sansone, and the Tailgate Show beginning at noon with Jacob, Kramer, and Nolan. Give me one player or one key that is going to be vital for the Bearcats to get the win tomorrow.
I'll start with the running attack with Caldwell and Strayhorn. Those are going to be the 2 big ones. I think you get the running game going, you get the ball moving, and then it opens everything up over the top. So I'll go with the running attack.
I'm going to go with the secondary, and as a whole, as a group together. You mentioned, Ryan, the Fort Hays likes to sling the ball around a little bit at times, and if that weather does hold off, they're obviously going to be throwing the ball a lot. And if Northwest is able to jump out to a big lead like they have in a lot of the first quarters, they're outscoring teams, I think, 90-17 in the first quarter. So if they're able to jump out to a big lead, that secondary is going to have a lot to play for.
And I'm going to go right where Ryan was at with the running game. That'll be the key to Northwest and the way this game plays out. If Northwest gets that working early, it's going to be tough for Fort Hays State to hang in this one.
I'm with you guys. I think the running game is going to be key. But one thing I've noticed with at least the home games we've had here is there's normally one explosive play a game, whether it's the opening Braden Wright to Jamie Taylor. You think back to the Troy Harper touchdown pass. I think Sean Bain is going to have at least one big play tomorrow, whether it be in the special teams department or with a deep bomb. And that's going to be something that I think that could be a little bit of a gut punch to a Fort Hays defense that has one of the top scoring defenses in the MIAA. If Northwest can kind of give them a punch early on and show that they're not going to lay back and be conservative. And that's what I'm looking for is, can they get that quick scoring play sometime in the game to maybe shift some momentum? So a lot to look forward to tomorrow. November football is maybe my favorite football, no matter what it is, because it always means a lot more. Not that games don't mean more or mean anything in September or October, but you're talking postseason now, pretty much. I mean, you almost have to treat every game like it's a postseason game, because if you lose, who knows what's going to happen. So it'll be exciting. You hear that game tomorrow on X106. Myself, Ryan Elliott, and Jacob Blair, or Kramer Sansone. Jacob, Kramer, and Nolan will give you the tailgate show at noon. I know Justin will be working away hard providing tweets on, what's your Twitter?
At JQuick88.
At JQuick88, providing wonderful insight throughout the day. Justin, thank you for your time. Have a great weekend, and I'm sure we'll see you tomorrow.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a real quick break on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. When we get
Glad you actually put his old music on there, because we didn't want to hear the actual lyrics.
Trevor Mader, Ryan Elliott, Jacob Blair, and the birthday boy, Kramer Sansone. Tomorrow, yeah. But
yeah,
hey,
I was born tomorrow.
22 years ago.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
there you go.
So
Just how
I thought you were older than me. I honestly did not know you were younger.
I'm a
than
baby. Well,
Yeah.
no, Jacob's a baby, but
Yeah, compared to all of us.
and Ryan's a baby face.
Now he wasn't a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
But that's not
Yeah,
the
this
point.
is this the no, this is not the first time I've been. Is this the first time I've been clean on Weekend Sports Kickoff? I think it's the
Well, I
second
mean, I
time.
hope you've been
Second.
clean every
Oh,
time.
clean.
Anyways,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I
The
digress.
debut of the new glasses today on Weekend Sports Kickoff. The new haircut. It's like a whole
like a
new
new
person
person.
coming on the show today.
Only if you're watching it, though. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Somebody's probably
If you're
at home-
listening to it,
Somebody's probably at home
really
like-
confused.
Somebody's probably at home like, who is that guy? I've never seen that guy before. What happened to the bearded guy?
Yeah,
Well, Sean Nino graduated
that's what
last
I
year.
was gonna say.
Hey, Sean's got more mentions on this show this week than I think he has all
Than he
year.
did when he was on the show.
So, Sean, if you're listening, we miss you. Let's look at our NFL picks from last week. I don't want to brag or anything, but I did go 4-1.
Oh, he took the lead.
I did. I took the lead.
3-2, not bad. Only
Caleb
2 games.
4-1. And the rest of you guys, Ryan, Kramer, Jacob, all went 3-2 right now. I took the lead. Ryan 1 game back. Jacob just 3 games back. Kramer and Caleb have a good old battle going on for not finishing last. Caleb's only 6 games below
the first round
500.
draft pick,
I
baby.
just want to point out that Caleb went 4-1 last week and still
It's
is 6 games under 500.
Good stuff.
I'm
man.
2 out. I
rough.
like it.
Yeah. So I mean, you.
I'm
Your,
on
your goal
I'm
right
on
now
an
should be to
incline.
finish 500 and maybe steal 3rd place from somebody. Maybe.
Taking first place. What are you talking about?
He's got time.
He's got time because we're gonna pick him over Thanksgiving break too. If you think we're just gonna not make picks when we don't have a show, you're wrong. So why don't we make our first pick of the day, and that'll be the 3-4 Falcons at the 5-2 Redskins. That game will be tomorrow afternoon or Sunday afternoon. They're not playing on Saturday. That'd be cool if they did, but it'll be on Sunday afternoon. A noon kickoff on Fox. The Redskins are a 1-point favorite. Babyface Ryan Elliott, who are you taking?
First of all, a Saturday NFL game during college football season is not okay. So if they were playing tomorrow, I would be unhappy. But they're not. So hooray. I'm going with Atlanta in this one. This is a really close matchup. I think this is going to be a really good game. I would almost pick a tie if that weren't the stupid thing to do. But I'm going to go with Atlanta in this one. I think offensively Atlanta's starting to find their stride a little bit. And I'm going to go with the Falcons over the Redskins.
Jacob?
I'm going to change this one up. I'm going to take the Redskins on this one. And the reason behind that is Atlanta, well, I've picked them a lot this year, and they've lost a lot this year. The other thing behind that is Atlanta does not stop anybody. And Washington, although Washington struggles to put up points, I think Washington will move the ball quite easily, especially with Adrian Peterson back there. He's had a resurgence year there in Washington this season. So I like the Redskins. It'll be a close one, probably a late field goal to win this one. But I'm going to pick against the Falcons in the hope that maybe this is the week I get a Falcon game right in terms of they're going to lose. Because every time I pick them to win, they've lost.
Kramer?
I'm going with the Redskins. It's going to sound, this is a weird analogy. Adrian Peterson's like a wine. And when he ages, he does good. But when he gets hurt, there's a crack in the bottle that's not. And so far, there's no cracks in the bottle right now. So Adrian Peterson right now is a workhorse.
Hold on. Time out.
Okay.
Ryan just quit the show, by the way.
Think about it.
Okay,
Adrian Peterson's a fine wine.
I totally get what you're saying.
No cracks in the bottle.
What?
He has bad knees.
That's something my grandma would have said. But how long did it take you to think of this?
I literally popped in my head.
Okay.
It just popped in my head.
Okay, well, now that
So Washington Redskins for me, I don't fully trust this Atlanta Falcons team. Alex Smith, don't fully trust him either. These quarterbacks they're the exact same. They're pretty much the exact same person in my eyes. Not really many targets.
They're different people.
Well, no, like the way that they play on the field. I know they're different people, but still, Washington Redskins for me.
I wish I was clever enough to come up with something to combat what you just said about Adrian Peterson to justify my pick of the Falcons. But unfortunately, I wish I would have known. I cannot. But I'm taking the Falcons. I think they're the best 4-loss team I have seen in a long time. 3 of their 4 losses have been by 1 possession.
That's because they can't stop anybody.
But you look at those 4 losses: an overtime loss to New Orleans, a last-second touchdown to Cincinnati, and then they came up short on the goal line against Philadelphia. They are 3 plays away, guys, from being 7-1. And Washington has gone by the mantra that you have to with Alex Smith, the quarterback, of, let's just not mess anything up. And sometimes that will lose you some games, so I'm taking the Falcons.
And the interesting thing about the Redskins right now is they've scored 24 points, 9 points, 31 points, and since then they scored 19, 23, 20, and 20.
Those are Alex Smith numbers.
And I think the Falcons are going to be another 1 play away from getting another win. It just seems like they're struggling to close out games this year.
I've got 2 things. One, Adrian Peterson's like an $8 wine. Okay, he gets better with age to a point, and then it just comes right back.
And after enough of it, then
yeah. Adrian Peterson.
Hall
first
of Fame
of all,
running back though.
I agree that Adrian Peterson's a Hall of Fame running back. I agree that he is having somewhat of a resurgent year. But if you look back at the years he's had in the past, this is nothing like the old Adrian Peterson. And I don't think it. I think he's going to have an okay game this week, but I don't think he's going to be anything special. So yeah, I don't remember what my second thing was, but that was the point I was trying to make there.
I'm going to throw out there.
My other thing was Julio Jones gets his first touchdown of the season this week.
That's crazy. Julio Jones does not have a touchdown yet.
812 receiving yards and no touchdown.
That is ridiculous. I want to mention the thing about the closing out the games. I feel like they're trying to play it way too safe to where they think they can win the game, but just go down the field and score. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Well, hopefully you have something to say about this next one. Chargers at Seahawks. That game will be a Sunday afternoon game, 3:05 on CBS. Seahawks are a 1-point favorite.
It's even now, by the way.
Is it even? When I looked literally before the show started, ESPN had it as a 1 point.
They just changed it to even.
Darn it.
Yeah, it's even.
So that's a pick 'em, and we're picking it in our pick 'em. So Seattle, they've looked stout the last couple of weeks. Granted, it was against the Raiders, and we'll get more into that maybe in a little bit. And the Lions, so take that for what it is. The Chargers, on the other hand, they're 5-2 right now. Kramer, who are you taking?
I'm going with the Chargers on this. If this Seahawks team looks like a team that wouldn't be a 4-3 team right now, but if you look at their schedule, they've played teams that are not good. I'm going with the Chargers on this one. Chargers could possibly walk away with this game if Melvin Gordon does fully play. I know he's questionable right now. Melvin Gordon is pretty much their workload on the offensive side.
Is he like a medium age bottle of wine?
No.
Okay.
$22 bottle.
1995. Okay. No analogies for Phillip Rivers or anything. I mean, he's like 40 years old.
I only did that to Adrian Peterson because it makes the most sense.
If you're gonna do
Phillip Rivers is like a 3-week-old can of beer. No.
I think I'd rather have the 3-week-old can of beer than Phillip Rivers, but I digress. Jacob?
I'm taking the Seahawks in this one, and as it being an even game, I think it deserves.
It doesn't seem like an even game, though.
Even,
yeah.
I think it should be. I think that's right where the line should be because you're playing at Seattle. They're having a decent year at this point, so Seattle's going to be loud. We've seen how Phillip Rivers plays in environments like that. Not well.
No, not well at all.
And Seattle's refound their run game the past couple weeks. And I know we said one of those was against the Raiders, but they ran the ball well against the Lions last week with Chris Carson back there. He's still going to be there. Russell Wilson's playing decent. I like the Seahawks in this one. A lot of it doing to be with the fact that they are playing at home, but the Chargers have not played. They didn't play that great it was 2 weeks ago. They had a bye week last week against the Titans. Maybe they get things fixed, but I like the Seahawks in this one.
Ryan?
I'm going with the Chargers in this one. I think, again, it's a push. This is an even game. I think this is going to be a really good football game in Seattle. Tough place to play. I think San Diego. You know what? I'm calling them San Diego. I think San Diego comes out on top in this one solely because they've got the better defense. I know statistically that's not the case, but the way I see this matchup, the way these two teams match up with each other, I know Seattle's got the third-ranked total defense in the league, whatever. But the way this matches up, I think it matches up better for the Chargers defense than it does Seattle's defense.
Look at this matchup. The Chargers, like I said, they're 5-2. Their 2 losses are to teams that are combined 15-1. Pretty good, I'll give them that. Their 5 wins, the teams are combined 10-29-1. So they haven't beat anybody good. In Seattle, tough place to play. The Seahawks are a quiet 4-3. I'm going to take the Seahawks to get the win over the Chargers. I just don't think I think the Chargers are a playoff team, but I don't think they're any real threat to New England or Kansas City or even Pittsburgh in the AFC. I think they're probably the 5th best team in the AFC right now. So I'm going to take the Seahawks in that one. Caleb takes the Seahawks as well. Oh, that means they're losing this week. Moving on to the next one, the Steelers, 4-2-1 at the Ravens, 4-4 overall in the season. These two teams played earlier on the year. Baltimore picked up the win. The Ravens are a 3-point favorite, or at least that's what it was earlier, and that's a noon game on CBS. Baltimore has struggled a little bit the past few weeks. They dropped to Carolina, they've dropped to New Orleans, and now they're at 4-4 after starting 4-2. This is a pretty big game for the Ravens. Ryan, do they get it done?
They sure do, and I think I hope I'm not on an island this week, but we're going to find out. But you look at this Ravens team, yes, they've struggled the last 2 weeks. They've given up some points the last 2 weeks. I still think this Baltimore Ravens defense is the best in the AFC. I don't think it's close either. I think they're the best in the AFC, just in talent, in grit. There's a lot of really good attitude on this Baltimore Ravens defense. I think they're the best in the AFC, and I think that continues this week. It's a close game. It's a good one. It's a standard Steelers-Ravens matchup. These two teams do not like each other. It's going to be fun, but this one's in Baltimore. I think Baltimore's defense gets it done.
Jacob?
As much as I don't want to pick the Steelers, I'm picking the Steelers in this one. The Steelers' offense has started clicking again. You got James Conner back there who's having an incredible year. Antonio Brown's still there. The offense is all the issues at the start of the season. Those seem to have gone away. They're clicking. The Ravens, on the other hand, they've struggled the last several weeks. Did not look good against Carolina last week. Gave up a ton of points. The defense, you saw some issues with the defense last week. I think the Steelers will exploit those issues that we're seeing, and I'll take the Steelers.
Kramer.
I'll take the Steelers on this one only because of three guys: James Conner, Juju, and Antonio Brown. That offense is lethal, and I know the defense is good for Baltimore.
It's like the third best offense in the AFC.
And the fact that they're 4-2-1, I mean, they've won 4 games. They probably should have won more than that, but their offense is good. Defense is terrible, so it's an offense versus defense game, and Baltimore has lost the last 2 games. Who knows if they can win this one, so I'm going Steelers.
Caleb, this should surprise nobody, is taking the Steelers. And I'm going to put Ryan on an island. I'm taking the Steelers as well. I don't want to.
I stand alone.
But that means you could gain a game on me. You're a game back, so you could gain a game on me this week. I don't want to pick the Steelers, but I just feel like if I didn't, this would be a game that would bite me. James Conner looks like he's the real deal. I've heard some people say that he should be league MVP. I think that's a little bit of a stretch when you look at who else is out there right now with Mahomes and Goff and Breeze.
Mahomes is the unanimous.
I would
right
say
now.
most likely, and even Todd Gurley. I would say James Conner is like the seventh in MVP voting right now.
For running backs, he's second. But
yeah, but I mean overall NFL, he's not there yet. Let's pump the brakes. This kid's played 8 games. He looks really good. Don't get me wrong.
He's not a kid,
but.
That's very much a man right there.
But he's only played 8 games, really. Yeah. I mean, so let's pump the brakes a little bit. A lot of guys have had a good half a season and then fallen off a cliff. So I'm going with the Steelers, though, because I think they can get it done. And Baltimore is reeling, and I think at 4-5 they're sitting there going, man, John Harbaugh could be in trouble if they don't make the playoffs this year. Moving on to this one. This one could be loads of fun. The 3-3-1 Packers, by the way, Caleb. At the 6-2 Patriots. That is the Sunday night football game. The Patriots, 5.5-point favorite. Neither defense is good. There's no other way to put it. And really, I don't think the Packers are that good outside of Aaron Rodgers. Foxborough, Sunday night, Brady, Belichick. Give me the Patriots. Ryan?
You know, a lot of me wants to take the Packers in this one. I still think now don't take this out of context. But at their current state, right now, Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady as a quarterback.
Totally agree.
Now, career history,
touchdown, double check.
Brady still takes it, period. Brady's still the greatest quarterback of all time. But right now, Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Tom Brady.
I think Drew Brees is a better quarterback than Tom Brady.
Well, yeah. But, I think you look at
Patrick Mahomes is better than Tom Brady.
Right now?
Right now, you're probably right. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is... unfortunately for Green Bay, there's just not enough around Aaron Rodgers for them to get it done. I'm going to pick the Patriots, but I'm hoping for the Packers to pull this one out.
Me too.
I've got the same reasons, and I'll try to make it sound a little bit different. When you look at Aaron Rodgers, you look at Tom Brady. I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers in that battle. You look at the rest of the teams, the rest of the team. I think the Patriots are by far the better team everywhere else. At home, we saw what happened. The Patriots play well at home. They always have since Tom Brady's been there. I'm taking the Patriots.
Another person better than Tom Brady, Nick Mullins. But I'm taking the Patriots on this one against the Packers. I do believe that Aaron Rodgers is better than Brady, but the offense for the Packers is not the best right now. As the offense for the Patriots, it seems like they can bring their water boy out there and Tom Brady will throw it to him and he'll get at least 5 yards, enough to almost get a first down. That's pretty much what usually happens with Brady. Go with the Patriots on this.
Caleb's taking the Packers. He's the odd one out once again with the Packers. This is the potential to be not just a game of the week, but one of the better games of the year to go along with the Chiefs-Patriots game from a couple weeks ago. The 6-1 Saints at the 8-0 Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are making football in L.A. fun again. This is a 3:25 kickoff on Fox. The Rams, at last check, were a 1.5-point favorite. They survived last week against the Packers and moved to 8-0. They've got some big matchups coming up the next couple weeks. Ryan, do they get to 9-0?
The artist formerly known as the St. Louis Rams get to 9-0, and I think there's one reason and one reason only, and that's Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley has a game. He comes out. This is the running back matchup. This is Gurley versus Kamara. I know everybody wants to talk about the quarterbacks, Goff versus Breeze. This one is Gurley versus Kamara, and Gurley wins. I'm going with Los Angeles.
Jacob?
I like the Saints to give a loss to the Rams, reason being, when you look at the Rams and a lot of the games they've played, we talked about Atlanta being 3-4 plays away from having a lot of wins. The Rams are honestly 4, 5, 6 plays away from having a lot of losses this season. They beat the Vikings by a touchdown, struggled with the Broncos, beat them by a field goal. You struggled with the Seahawks, beat them by 2 points. You get away with one last week with Green Bay. Ty Montgomery fumbles the football, doesn't give Aaron Rodgers a shot to win that game. They've played a lot of close games. The Saints look really good right now, especially with Drew Brees back there. If you look at his stat line from this last week, not very good. Still, the team around him.
You took all of my notes
that was the point of this whole thing. Saints win this game. I think the Saints might be the best team in the NFC right now. I know the Rams are undefeated, but the Rams have holes, and you can see those holes out there in LA right now.
Kramer?
I'm going with the Saints on this one. Todd Gurley, he's going to have a monster game, and so is Kamara. But it's the way that they both go at it. Gurley's more of a running game. Kamara is more of a pass catcher almost.
Dual threat.
And I feel like Drew Brees has the upper hand on Goff, even though that the numbers say otherwise. I like Drew Brees a lot. Drew Brees is the best. He's probably the top 2 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. The way that this is a good stretch for the Rams
what about Nick
to have.
Mullins?
Yeah, he's
Nick
number
Mullins
one.
is number one.
Number one. I already said that. That's why I said top 2, so it's Mullins and Breeze. And, well, the Rams, they got Seahawks next week, and they had the Chiefs in Mexico City. These next 3 games for the Rams are going to be tough for them, and I feel like this is where they're going to start to crumble a little bit.
The Rams are 8-0. 3 of those wins are by 3 points or less, as Jacob alluded to. Also, Drew Brees stunk last week. There's another way to put it, 120 yards.
Well, he didn't stink.
Well,
he didn't need to do anything else.
Yeah, but he wasn't good.
He wasn't
he
wasn't good.
But he didn't put
his
up,
numbers
but the
weren't
point
good.
Is, yeah,
he didn't play poorly.
He didn't put up good numbers.
He didn't need to,
and
though.
they didn't need to. This is a better team than the Rams. I think this is an NFC Championship preview. 5 years ago, if Drew Brees would have thrown for 122 yards or whatever it was, the Saints would have got blown out of the building.
5 years ago. Wait, yeah.
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
5 years ago, 3 years ago, I think still.
Maybe 7 years ago, maybe not so because that defense.
Yeah, but well, it helps when you're paying people to hit people.
Exactly.
But anyways,
shout out to my boy Jonathan. Vilma.
You pointed to the sky like he's dead or something. Anyways, I'm going with
Jonathan Vilma is very much alive.
Yeah, he was just on ESPN.
We are not breaking any news right now. Jonathan Vilma is still alive.
I'm going with the Saints. I think the fact that Brees can play the way he did last week and they win points to how good that team is. So give me the Saints. One other game, it's not on our pick 'em because I think I knew how we would all pick. The Chiefs and the Browns on Sunday. The Chiefs win, right?
I thought we were all going to pick Cleveland. No. Yeah, I think so. There's questions as to whether or not Tyreek Hill's going to play. He
practiced today.
Yeah. Okay. Good. There's questions.
And Justin Houston practiced today.
It doesn't matter. It wouldn't have mattered if Hill played. It wouldn't have mattered if Houston played. I think Kansas City wins this game. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be some huge blowout. I think Cleveland's got a chance to make it interesting. It's Mahomes and
Mayfield
part 2. But I
didn't Mahomes replace Mayfield at Texas Tech too? Or was that Davis Webb? Did Davis Webb replace Mayfield and then Mahomes replaced Webb?
I don't remember.
They were both at Texas Tech. So
I don't remember.
Look it up, Jacob. Chiefs win, right?
Yeah, the Chiefs win. I don't think part 2 is going to provide quite what part 1
if
did.
It's 66-15. Well,
have you
seen
great,
the Chiefs' defense?
The way I see this game playing out is the Chiefs run away with it in the first half, and then when you look at the final score at the end of the game, you're like, this game was a lot closer than it felt. Like the Chiefs get up
like the Niners
35-10 at halftime or whatever, and then you look at the final score, and it's like 41-31, and it seems a lot closer. The stats look a lot closer because I think Cleveland's going to score a lot in garbage time, basically.
Chiefs win, right?
The fans win in this one.
Okay.
But the Chiefs are going to win.
Okay. I'm saying Chiefs 38-31.
That's true. I mean, fans do win this one.
Cleveland's got some weapons. Don't overlook that.
Do they have any coaches over there at this point?
We'll get more into that.
Their defense is not bad.
We'll get more into that in just a little bit. But their defense isn't bad either. But we've seen it doesn't matter with the Chiefs.
move on to Spoofhound football. We've got a big-time playoff game tonight. Chillicothe in town to take on the Spoofhounds. District semifinal matchup after the a bit of a I won't say a controversy, but perhaps a miscommunication in terms of who forfeited when last week.
Yeah, that was a bizarre experience that I kind of had to deal with last week. And we got the report from athletics director Matt Bew at the high school here in town that Northeast Kansas City had forfeited. I talked to Matt Webb on the phone. He was like, I want to play, but they forfeited, whatever. And then I called on to Northeast Kansas City trying to get the football coach for a quote. They gave me the athletic director, and then he said, "We have not forfeited this game." And he sent all his questions on to the district athletic director, who said, "I'll call you back in 30 minutes." Called me back and said, "Never mind, talk to this guy. He's our media rep." And then I waited 2 hours for the media rep to call me, for just him to give me information from the guy that had just told me to call him, saying, "Yes, we have forfeited this game. We can't field the team." So pretty bizarre experience that I went through and spent most of 4 hours trying to get to the bottom of it for it to ultimately be what we all knew it was and what it was probably should have been, which is a forfeit. If Northeast Kansas City did come up here, they probably would have driven an hour and a half, 2 hours to get killed by 90 points and then drive home. So I don't blame them for forfeiting at all. But, that's what happened, and here we are in round 2.
And we are here in round 2 with Chillicothe in town, a team that Maryville beat handily earlier in the year. And if you're Maryville, is it just come out and get warmed up for next week, or is this a game? I mean, obviously it's in the playoffs, so everything's got to be taken seriously because it's win or you go home.
I suppose it depends on who you ask. If you ask Matt Webb, every game is as serious as it can be. And with it being the playoffs, I think they will take it pretty serious. Chillicothe, when they played in week 3, Chillicothe had not scored a point yet this season, and Maryville shut them out 47-0 at Bearcat Stadium early September. The game was moved from the Hound Pound due to field conditions, but they kind of turned it around. They beat Benton twice in a row to get to this point. So, they're going to come in wanting to get a win, as any team in the playoffs would. I think overall, one storyline to watch would be the availability of Eli Dowis, star running back who went down with a knee injury, and also Ben Walker and Connor Weiss, who didn't suit up in the Lafayette game, the final game of the regular season for reasons unknown right now. So if all 3 of them don't play, it might be a closer game than it would be otherwise. But still, I think even if you didn't have Dallas, Walker, and Connor Weiss, I'd still chalk this up to be a Maryville win.
And I think that's a fair statement. I think as you look at the rest of this district, on the other side, you've got Savannah and St. Pius. Mm-hmm. When you look at the rest of this district and you look at the rest of Class 3, obviously you don't want to look too far ahead if you're associated with the Maryville team. We, however, are unaffiliated, so we kind of can.
Yeah.
As you look at the rest of Class 3, is there anybody, especially on this side of the bracket, as I'm looking at the right side of the bracket, that really could challenge this Maryville team?
I think really, at least, as of this week and next week, if for whatever reason Eli, Connor, and Ben all didn't play next week against what will likely be Savannah, obviously I'm not a fortune teller, but I can tell you that St. Pius isn't very good at football, so I would take the Savages in that one. So if all 3 of them didn't play against Savannah, that might be a close game. It was a close-ish game with all 3 of those guys playing. That's obviously the game that Eli went down in. But if all 3 of those guys are back and healthy, I'd say you get to Odessa, then you start talking about a game that matters. Odessa's been the number 1 team in the state this year so far. I really don't know much about them. I don't know their play style. I don't know how good they are, how good their opponents have been. But that'll be a game to watch. And then you're looking at quarterfinals, and that might be a quarterfinal matchup. I'm not.
I believe it will be a quarterfinal matchup because then it'll be semis after that.
So I'd say quarterfinals would be the first time that, assuming all your players are healthy and available, that Maryville fans should really be sweating.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. You look at, again, the rest of this district. You talked about Savannah, St. Pius. St. Pius, as we've seen, not the best team in the state. Savannah, a team that this Maryville team's already beaten. You move on to Odessa. Even after that, who's to say who comes out of that other side? You've got a Moberly team who's looking really good over there, but lost to Kirksville a couple of weeks ago. And so that side of the bracket, it looks like another year where Maryville's going to make that run and have a shot at, as long as they do everything right, as long as they don't make any big-time boneheaded mistakes along the way. It's just another year for Maryville.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this team is honestly better than the team last year that won the state championship. Obviously, anything can happen in postseason football. I mean, they could go lose a game that they have no business losing, or they could win a game they have no business winning. It's all going to depend on how good their opponents are and how healthy they are and how well they play. I think what you're seeing from Ben Walker this season is considerably better than what you saw last year from his older brother, Will Walker. I think Ben has kind of been a revelation of sorts, turning this into not only a running offense like it has been in the past. They have the ability to pass the ball now when they absolutely have to, and he's provided that. And obviously Eli and Tyler Haushin, both senior running backs, have been absolutely just animals and just running over every defense they played so far, particularly – I mean, it seems like, when you're from 5 yards out in Maryville to guarantee touchdown, all you have to do is hand them the ball maybe twice, and it'll be in the end zone. So, it'll just be up to how they play. And like you said, boneheaded mistakes could cost them a game. But I do think that this team is better than the one that we saw last year go win a state championship. So I see no reason and no team that could, if both teams played their best game, I don't think any team in Class 3 in the state could stop this Maryville Spoofan team.
I think the only name you look at on this schedule that are in this bracket is all the way on the other side in Cassville. Cassville, a team that ended the longest winning streak in the country of Lamar. Lamar, a team that's won 6 consecutive Class 2 state championships. Yes, they are a class down, but this is clearly all class has been one of the best football programs in the state of Missouri over the last 10 years. I think that's the only other team that you may look at if you're Maryville and go, okay, we got to be absolute A game to beat that team. And they're all the way on the other side of the bracket. So I think if you're Maryville, you got to be feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, I think anything less than a semifinals appearance or a state championship appearance for this team would probably be considered a disappointment. But again, that's gonna come down to the availability of players, because anything could happen in any given game. I mean, they could suffer injuries tonight that hurt them the rest of the playoffs. God forbid that happened to any football player. But anything can happen, and it is the postseason. So the best team doesn't always win, especially single elimination. I mean, it's one game, 4 quarters decides whether or not you advance or if you go home. So anything can happen. But I think this team is in pretty great shape going forward.
And a lot of those games we talked about are a couple weeks down the road. They still have to play a game this week, and it's here in Maryville at the Hound Pound. It's Chillicothe in town.